The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio. Coming up on the program today, we're going to discuss organic and chemical fertilizers and how they work in your soil, as well as the world of beans, and interviewing with us, the hosts. We're going to find out about each other, as well as answering your garden questions. The hour is full, so join us.
You are listening to the most informationally packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
And welcome to another edition of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Happy you've chose us to spend a little bit of time together. I am your host, Joey Baird. Beside me, my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is for you, about you, to help your garden grow better, to maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make your grass look greener, as well as preserving what you grow. Happy you're tuning in, whether you're doing that on one of the 18 AM and FM frequencies, broadcasting our program here in 2024 through a radio app, through our parent website, which is thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com. Underneath the Season 8 tab at the top of the page, podcast replay, in-studio video replay. Thank you so much. You want to be part of the program? You certainly can do such by sending us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or you can give us a call toll-free, coast to coast, at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. Well, Holly, before we get into the program, it's time for this week's Joke of the Week.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, why don't scarecrows go for dinner with the farm animals?
Because they think they're going to be part of the appetizer, the bed. Scarecrow is a straw.
Yeah. You're overthinking.
Oh, I'm overthinking?
Okay. It costs them an arm and a leg.
Because
they're scarecrows.
They're scared.
Okay. Because
they're made out of straw.
Yeah. So it might cost them an arm and a leg.
Because of the bedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, okay, that was close enough. So anyway, this week's garden joke is brought to you by Rescue.com. American-made rescue products keep your family, home, and yard protected from pest insects like wasps, hornets, yellow jackets, flies, ants, and more. Learn more at Rescue.com. That's RESCUE.com.
Chemical fertilizer and organic fertilizer. Now, Holly, you have a degree in environmental science, so you have a little knowledge firsthand of this type of situation. And we encourage people, we don't discriminate, but we encourage you to look at an organic means of fertilization. There's chemical application, liquid and granular, very prominent products and companies out there pushing this type of items in the spring for weed and feed and for getting your lawn ready, and some very prominent figures working with these companies. And then there's the organic side of it, which is not as pushed or not as prominent in the spring and the summer as these other big companies, because when you got a lot of money, you can make a lot of noise type of thing. So what do they do, and how do they react in your soil? And is there really one better than the other?
I wouldn't say better or worse. I would just say different. So organic fertilizers are made up of plant, animal, and very occasionally minimal-based compounds. And this is from natural biochemical reactions like fermentation. So to make these organic fertilizers, they use plant, soil bacteria, and then insoluble nutrients. So when applied properly, organic fertilizers do help both crops and soil. So that's the big thing, is that they feed the plants, but they also feed the soil. So then the soil...
They're doing two parts.
So then synthetic fertilizers are made from things like ammonia, nitrogen, phosphate minerals, and other chemicals through human-controlled chemical reactions, such as a process called the Haber process. And they are quick-acting, and they come in a variety of forms. Not that organic fertilizers don't come in a variety of forms, but
more controlled quantity forms.
Yeah.
Like so 10, 10, 10, 20, 20, 20, right. Specific formulations to get a big bang for the applicational rate.
Correct. And they provide this surge of macronutrients, and you can give you results quickly. So if you think about, you see these commercials, especially in the spring, for a miracle product, and they'll be like,
it's time to weed and feed your lawn
no,
with.
That,
oh no,
that.
no. But that too.
A
but
plant food.
A
miracle product.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, oh, I grew the best flowers, but it's because it's like what we call plant crack. So
the plants become addicted to the regular routine of absorbing this chemical.
Yes. So anyway, they do provide that surge of the macronutrients,
and people utilize this because of the simplicity that it is to get that result that they're looking for very quickly.
Correct. So synthetics have a short payoff time. Basically, like they feed the plant quickly. The plant becomes addicted, etc. But there's also risks such as leaching, increased soil and nitrate levels, and then burning the plants. Mm-hmm. So if you don't apply them properly, then you can burn your plants. I mean, it's pretty hard to burn your plants with organic fertilizers. I'm sure it's been done, but it's not easy. So here's some kind of advantages to the organic fertilizers. One, it improves the soil fertility and the health. So when you're using organic fertilizer, you're not necessarily building the soil, but you're improving the soil. And those fertilizers sit in the soil, and they are more slow release in a way. There's better water retention, and the plants have better nutrients uptake. So they're taking up the nutrients in a more ideal and holistic way versus something like the chemical fertilizers. They're just taking them up as they are, and there's no accumulation of toxins in the soil. So that's something to keep in mind too. You're not putting those toxic compounds. So
now, with if you're one of these people, if you're listening to this program and going, well, I've only used that miracle product and I've had a great yard and great garden and great all this, that's fine. We are just giving you information. We're not saying that you need to stop doing this or start doing that. You will see on the news algae bloom in Lake Michigan or in the Gulf of Mexico or in the Bay of Tampa Bay.
I mean, it could even be in your local park pond.
But that is not because you, John Smith, is using too much and it's running off. It's a combination of everybody adding a little thimble to the big pond. You know, if you have 1,000 people add a thimble of water to a bucket, that bucket fills up pretty quick. So a little bit. And you can use too much organic fertilizer. Whether you're using chemical or organic, the back of the bag has a thing called the instructions for a reason. If they didn't care and it wasn't, whatever, they would just say, good luck and leave it be. But there's instructions, and you can burn you can use too much organic fertilizer. It can cause plants to burn foliage and roots, and it can too much can harm water quality because of the runoff, because you're putting too much in it. So there is environmental. And with the organic, there is more salt than the synthetic, and it can cause issues with salt levels in your soil as well.
So I don't want to jump around too much. Okay. I want to kind of stay in order here. So organic fertilizers do have some cons. And one major one is that they are dependent on the soil microbes. So if you don't have a lot of microorganisms in your soil, or there isn't the activity, natural feeding will not yield the desired results. So if you are like, I'm trying to build this soil, I was using chemical fertilizer and I'm switching to organic, you might want to build your soil naturally by adding things like leaves, compost, etc.
That would be the time where you call your local garden center and say, I need so many yards of compost, bring it in, and start remitigating the soil that way to accelerate and then transition to the organic. Yeah.
But organics do add, they do help the restoration of beneficial bacteria over time. So you can
if you're starting with nothing, you got to do something.
You do have to do something. Yeah. And obviously they don't work as fast as chemical fertilizers, but we did talk about that. So synthetic fertilizers is that you can have better control because you're not waiting for the microorganisms to move the plants around. They do work
nutrients around.
Nutrients, that too. Plants.
What's going on? The tomatoes moving across the garden.
That's the worms.
That's the worms, honey. Don't worry about it. Just go watch. Go back in the house.
They're faster. It's a lot of times people feel they're very convenient to apply because they are easier to apply. A lot of times you don't have to think about it very easily. They are more affordable. They are a cheaper option for the most part, and they blend well with other products. So you would have insecticides, herbicides, and then organic fertilizers that you could combine well. So some disadvantages are there's a lack of the micronutrients. They're just mostly macronutrients, which are the larger nutrients like NPK. They do cause environmental pollution. They include
This is
runoff.
a chemical.
Yep. They contaminate the soil, water, and air, potentially reaching to far-flung places. So Roundup it does travel through the air.
In the water molecules, this is not a mythical thing. This is a fact. This has been proven. This is nothing new.
And it's the same thing with fertilizer.
Right.
So that can travel through the air, the organic or the non-organic, the chemical fertilizer. It can alter soil pH, and this is a problem, especially because it can be hostile to those beneficial insects and microorganisms. And you can be more frequent applications, but then more frequent applications could lead to over-fertilization. So it's not, there's pros and cons to both.
Just like anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just have like a little bit of...
while you're looking for that, we do have a sponsor, IV Organics, 3-in-1 macronutrient fertilizer. You can go to ivorganics.com and use coupon code RADIO to save 10% on your order. All coupon codes can be found under the Money tab at our website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, just presenting you with an organic means, an option that you can utilize for your garden.
So one thing I wanted to mention is that on a large scale, so I'm not talking about like your backyard garden.
You're talking agricultural level. Okay.
Agricultural level. It makes sense why farmers use chemical fertilizers and chemical growing because it is easier, it's faster, it's more cost effective.
Well, when you have a field the size of 20 or let's say 50 football fields, to pay or the means of material or tractor or people in order to get in and weed that, whether you're growing soybeans or whatever the case is, you can have a machine go through and basically cover that whole field in about 8 minutes with a chemical that is killing the soil, killing everything except for the plant. That's where we get into the genetically modified plants.
Fertilizer, not weed killer.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that I understand why farmers on the large
it comes down to a money thing.
Yeah, it comes down to a money thing. And I think we all know that farmers are not making bank, and they're trying to.
They're like many of us. They're just surviving. And if you know a farmer, it's different than I guess you want to call city people, because a farmer is poor all the time but doesn't know it because they've got a freezer full. If they have cattle and all that, they got a freezer full of meat. They got a garden full of vegetables. They don't know they're poor, but they're poor.
Right.
When you're in the city and you don't have a garden and you don't have a freezer full, you know you're poor real easy and real quick. Right,
exactly. So that's one of the big differences is that when it comes to large scale growing, it makes sense, especially because most farmers on a large scale level aren't trying to build their soil. In your backyard, I would consider all of this personally, and I think that as somebody who likes to live in harmony with nature and really appreciates natural resources, I'm going to stick with the organic. But
there's some decent sized organic farms that produce lots of tomatoes and lots of sweet corn and go to your local farmer's market and sells it to you. There's a decent sized farms of those all over the country, and it takes quite a bit of manpower.
I'm not saying there's not.
Yeah,
and
but just both sides of it.
But I'm just saying that. If you're, we're talking to home gardeners, essentially, and that's how I feel.
Yeah.
So,
well, Walton's Inc. is a company in which supports our program because you support them by buying what they're offering.
We are brought to you today by our sponsor, Walton's Inc. Listen, guys, we know you care about where your food comes from. Canning and preserving your fruits and vegetables is great, but what about the meat? At waltons.com, waltonsinc.com, you can get all the equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, and any other meat product your way to your high standards. We are upon the meat harvesting, wild meat harvesting
in the woods
season. So you want to make snack sticks that people actually like. Walton's created meatjuststicks.com, an informational site to help you make the best finished product. Walton's has a full line of their meat grinders, mixers, and sausage stuffers to help you go from animal to edible. You can use code GROW50, that's GROW50, to save 10% off your orders of $50 or more at waltonsinc.com.
Hang out with us, the world of beans, hard shell, and edible pod. When we return, you're tuned into the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Garden like a pro in 3 easy steps and receive customized fertilizer recommendations for your garden or lawn. Soil Savvy helps you determine what nutrients your plants need to thrive. Never again overapply nutrients they don't need. A patented process that makes you a smart gardener. To get your soil test kit, go to mysoilsavvy.com.
Wisconsin Greenhouse Company has custom-made greenhouses to suit your needs. Grow year-round. Strongest greenhouses that will last a lifetime. From agricultural to lounging to entertaining. For more information, go to wisconsingreenhousecompany.com. Got a landscape project left on your to-do list that you're not going to get to? Let the trained team of specialists at David J. Frank Landscaping handle it. Fall is also a good time to improve your lawn for next year. Strengthen your lawn with overseeding and aeration. Schedule a fall cleanup or fall planting and winterizing your yard before the cold sets in. Get a free quote at davidjfrank.com.
Mantis tillers, the premium long-lasting gas-powered tillers, are the perfect solution for any garden. This Mantis machine is available with 2 or 4 cycle engines with a 19-inch or 16-inch tilling width. Your DIY companion in your garden and your lawn converts easily for edging, aerating, and more with optional attachments. Find details at mantis.com.
Well, welcome back to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Happy that you are with us today. We're going to talk about the world of beans, edible pod, and hard shell. But first, a word from our Honeybee Healthy friends at Honeybee Healthy.
Since 2000, Honeybee Healthy Inc. has helped beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Attracting pollinators to your garden this year is as simple as hanging a hummingbird feeder with a mixture of sugar, water, and Honeybee Healthy Original. Don't be alarmed to see bees, birds, and butterflies standing together at the feeder.
You can still do it this time of year.
Yeah, pollinators coexist peacefully. Honeybee Healthy is offering a 10% discount on an 8-ounce bottle of Honeybee Healthy Original to the show's listeners. Enter code BEEGARDEN, that's BEE Garden, at checkout. For more information, mixing instructions, and more, visit honeybeehealthy.com.
The world of beans. If you've ever dived into something like this is a pretty fascinating little world. You got green beans or snap bee, aka snap or string beans, and snap beans are your pods there. You got all kinds. And let's
talk about what inspired this topic.
Okay. So
is your 16 bean soup that you're like obsessed with?
Well, we were going to make, we were looking for chickpeas to make what was the Jewish falafel, which is a Jewish dish.
Yeah, it's
that is
mostly chickpeas.
Chickpeas, and there's some onions and stuff.
Yeah.
You make it into a ball and you basically fry it in oil. It's
like Mediterranean,
Israeli,
Jewish, yeah.
So nobody had chickpeas except for the natural food store in our area, and you spilled a lot of them on the ground.
I didn't spill a lot on the ground. I
dribbled some of them.
I dropped a few.
Yeah. So anyway, I was looking at a big box store, and they had northern white beans and kidney beans and black eye beans and 16 bean. They had a bag with 16 different flavors or varieties of beans for soup. Well, when you look at it, really, you don't have 16 different types of beans. You got about 10, and you got some other stuff. But you got lima beans and white beans, kidney beans, baby lima beans, great northerns, sparkled lima beans, great black beans, green baby lima beans, cranberry beans, pink beans, whole green peas. There's where you get your yellow split peas. So you get a whole bunch, black eyed peas. You get a whole bunch of stuff. It's really a fascinating bag. And I found online where you can buy a 25-pound bag of that. So you if you want 25 pounds bags of,
I bet it would be okay. I mean, I like all those things.
If it was done right and not rushed and done over, let's say, 2 days and cooked and marinated and it would probably be fantastic.
Yeah.
If you're not a vegetarian, you add some. What would you add in there?
You don't have to be vegetarian.
No. But what would you add? Like chicken? Would you add some?
I would just. That's
noodles?
a lot of protein. I would just eat that.
I'll just eat it as straight.
Yes.
Some
Yes.
people put ketchup on their beans. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Anyway, so we're going to talk about not shelling beans, which are like AKA string beans or green beans, whatever you want to call them.
What we have always grown in our garden.
Yeah.
We grow the yellow pod, we grow the royalty purple, and we grow the green beans. Pole beans
So-
and bush beans.
So you can kind of identify these as because they're growing. They string down. So these are the ones that they grow on what's it called, like a trellis. They're like a runner type bean where they run up a trellis. They're not
a pole bean. Yeah.
There we go. I couldn't think of the word. As opposed to bush beans, which are the shelling beans, which we'll get to. So green beans, string beans, snap beans, whatever, are long. They're rounded. They're usually green. Sometimes they're yellow or purple.
And both can be on a trellis and in the bush, the edible ones.
Right.
You don't have trellising hard shell beans
No.
that I'm aware of.
No. So one is like a French green bean, which is called haricot vert. You'll see this. You'll be like, I've never heard of that. You'll see this sometimes in specialty grocery stores. They're just basically a fancy green bean. But, if you're having a fancy dinner party.
What's the name of that again?
Haricot vert.
You're going to say it with an accent like you're
Haricot vert.
like you're better than everybody else?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
No. But I have seen these at like specialty grocery stores or organic grocery stores.
But you can grow them in your backyard.
And they are very thin, so they're like a more string bean, I guess. Long beans are like yard long beans or runner beans. They are actually a completely different family of plant from green beans, but they are similar in flavor. They look like green beans. They can be cooked in the same way. They get between 12 and 18 inches long, and the longer versions can get tough. So if you do grow like the long yard, do you call it yard beans?
Yeah, yard long beans,
yard long.
which they
Say
can.
that 4 times fast.
You said 18. I've seen descriptions where they can get 36 inches long, an actual yard long. Now that is again based on environmental conditions will determine on any of these beans if they're going to be chewy, if they're going to be tough, or if they're going to be tender. And the time in which you harvest the edible pod beans also determines if you let them go too long, the seed or inside of it's going to be much larger and it's going to be more difficult to chew or consume based on your dietary needs. So the younger or more tender pods is going to be best to eat for many people, but it's your mileage may vary, and it's up to your determination of when you pick your edible pod beans.
All right, so let's talk about purple string beans. So these are purple. Once you cook them, they
Edible.
Once you cook them, they typically do turn green. But if you do want them to keep their purple color, you could use them raw, or you could lightly steam them and then dip them into ice water.
And I don't know if a lot of people realize that, the tradition, you can eat just green beans raw. Like you can eat sweet corn
Right.
raw. You don't have to cook either one of them.
You can eat pretty much any vegetable
Right.
raw.
But we've all grown up in you boil the green beans or you cook the green beans with butter in a pot or a pan to get them tender, and then you serve them. That's what many of us have grown up consuming.
Yeah. So these next two you'll probably recognize because I'm sure you've seen them like in the frozen section or in the canned section, or they're typically like in 3-bean salad. I think that's what it's called. Romano beans, which are also known as Italian green beans or flat beans.
It's
So
the
these
pizza
are-
parlor.
These are flat and wide. Italian beans is like the most common name, I think, for them, but they're also known as Romano beans. And they do take a bit more cooking because they have, they're a little bit flatter and wider, but they have more flavor. So some people will actually braise them, which is like a slow cooking process, typically done in the oven. And then wax beans are like green beans, but they're yellow, and that's pretty much the only difference. I don't know why they're called wax beans, but that's what they're called. So
Well, if you look at them when they're ready to harvest, they
do
have
look kinda
they
waxy.
look like they have a waxy coat on them. Yes.
I guess they kind of look like almost like a candle in a way, like a waxy, like that candly look to it. So
Hard shell beans, we're going to try to get through some of them. There's more than we have time allotted for.
I want to say that what
And we've grown some of these hard shell beans.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in a moment. Go ahead.
So black beans, I think this is a very common one. They're a staple in like a lot of Mexican dishes, South American dishes, etc. And they do have a very velvety, smooth texture and flavor.
The key to all of these hard shell beans is proper soakage time prior to using.
Right. And they have a lower glycemic index. So if you are worried about like higher carbohydrate foods or spiking your blood sugar, black beans help prevent those blood sugar spikes. So if you're like, I've heard black beans are sometimes high in carb, or beans in general are higher in carbs, like these kind of beans, the hard shell beans. Black beans are might not be lower in carbs, but they prevent blood sugar spikes, which is good to know.
Well, the garbanzo beans we talked about, or they're also known as chickpeas, we bought them dry for the Israeli Jewish dish, which I blanked on again. Falafel. You cannot use canned in that situation. It doesn't work. They don't stay together. They'll fall apart. So that's why we were utilizing the hard shell or the dry version instead of the canned version. The canned version works great for what's the stuff? The dip, the
hummus.
Hummus, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, because it's already broken down.
Yeah, we've grown chickpeas, we've grown black beans, we've grown great white northern beans, we've grown black eyed peas.
So let's talk about cannellini beans.
Yes, go ahead.
They're white Italian kidney beans. And they're a lot of times people add them like soup, salad, Italian dishes. People will mash them. They're a very nice neutral bean. And then we kind of talked about chickpeas, about hummus. They do have the round shape as opposed to more the bean shape.
Now, these hard shell beans, they grow in a husk or they grow in a pod. And when the pod dries, for the majority of the growing life of the bean, it looks like a green bean or a yellow pod bean or a royalty purple bean. These particular ones you allow to dry on the vine. You don't pick them when they're green. You wait until the pod is very dry and almost opened up and the beans are almost falling out before you harvest them.
All right, so let's talk about Great Northern beans. A lot of times these are mistaken for the cannellini beans or even navy beans, but these are less dense and have...
Eat your navy... Isn't that what Elaine said?
I like my navy beans.
It was, right? Was Elaine feeding her former boyfriend?
Okay, so anyway, apparently, I didn't know this, and I'll have to talk about this in the last segment about what I learned, that they are mistaken for cannellini or navy beans, the Great Northern beans, and they're packed full of calcium. So if you're like, I need more calcium in my life.
Don't take the pill, eat the bean.
Yeah, eat the Great Northern bean. So that's a fun one. Kidney beans, a lot of people recognize these. They are used in chili, and they have so they have a lot of antioxidants like blueberries. A lot of people know that those have a lot of antioxidants. It's anything that's like that dark purple, red color. So it would make sense that kidneys have a lot of antioxidants, and they also have a lot of protein in them. So if you're like, I want to make something that's not meat based and you want to make a soup, these kidney beans, you might want to toss those in to give yourself some protein. Chickpeas have a lot of protein in them as well. And, most beans do, but these have a kind of a higher amount.
Now, I believe, and I didn't do a study on this, basically any hard shell bean that you want, you can get it in the dry version, in the bag, like 1 pound bags, or you can get it already in a can where it's already hydrated. And if it's a dry bean, you want to soak it, what is the rule, about 24 hours before?
Yeah.
And maybe rinse it every 12 or something if you have that option.
I don't know if you need to rinse it.
But 24 hours to rehydrate the bean.
Yeah. If
your recipe needs specifically the hard shell bean rather than a canned bean, and some of you may choose to go with the hard shell bean because it's more of a pure representation of the original harvest rather than what may have been done to the bean in the can.
I think we should try the 16 bean soup.
Okay.
Anyway, lima beans.
Yep.
They get a bad rap, but they're not bad. They have a mild buttery flavor. They're a soft texture. They can turn to mush when cooked too long, and I think that's the problem with people who've had bad experiences with lima beans. Maybe they had overcooked.
Somebody didn't know how to cook them.
Yeah, that could be possible. That kind of makes sense. And then pinto beans, another one that is used in a lot of Latin cooking, and they have a lot of protein as well. This is what makes refried beans.
But refried beans are not actually fried twice.
No.
There's a Hispanic word that means I forget what the originality means, but it means to cook and then make sure it's cooked correctly the first time or something like that.
Do we have time for one more?
We can go for it.
Fava beans.
All right.
Do you know where fava beans are mentioned?
No, where?
In The Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a movie where he says, I would like some fava beans and a nice Chianti or something.
Okay.
I don't know. But anyway, I'm not super familiar with fava beans, but they do have a sweet nutty flavor, and they're good. You have to remove their pods. Usually a lot of times you have to remove them from the pods. I don't think they're sold canned. I think you would have to buy these fresh. So
the word on the refried beans, the word comes from the Spanish name for a dish. I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but it means well fried is what comes from.
I mean, nobody's refrying beans. Basically, the beans are cooked and then they're mashed.
Right, they're made. Yeah. But the Spanish word means well fried. I'm not going to try to.
I like refried beans. I think they're delicious.
Well, what you may have noticed is the days are getting shorter, nights are getting colder, and the lawn may have slipped your mind. But if you want a nice lawn and a nice bug-free environment next year, you're going to have to do something now.
Well, summer, just because it's fall, we don't have to forget about our yards and those Japanese beetles either. They may be gone, but they're not far. Not only did they feast on your roses and berries this summer, they laid eggs on your turf so they can start again next year. You can take a stand with Phylum's Grub Gone. Grub Gone is a non-chemical BT granule that specifically targets scarab pests and their larvae. Simply apply the granule with a spreader, irrigate it into the soil, and let the naturally occurring bacteria do its job.
Just not only is Grub Gone easy to use, but it is the only non-chemical choice that effectively control grubs. And the best part about it, it's non-toxic to bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects. Grub Gone has no label restrictions to be used around flowering plants, so you don't have to worry about those beneficial insects picking up the toxicity of other products and taking in, because Grub Gone doesn't have that. You can find all this out at Grub Gone from PhylumBioproducts.com, the natural choice. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com. When we return, Holly and I are going to talk to each other and interview each other with some questions that you may not be familiar with who us, the host, are. You're tuned into the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Take the guesswork out of composting with the AeroBin 400 or smaller 200 for easy composting. The AeroBin mimics how nature decomposes waste. The AeroBin is easy to use. You prepare your balanced organic waste, just open it up, drop it in, and close. After a short time, fertile compost is produced, which is easily accessed via the lower side door. The thermal insulation in the AeroBin conserves heat, leading to rapid breakdown of the biomass and works efficiently year-round, even in cooler regions. There is no need to turn the biomass, and it is patent rodent resistant. It has little odor and can kill annoying weeds and seeds. It is BPA free. The AeroBin 400 or 200 comes with a reservoir at the bottom to collect the leachate. When diluted, makes for great compost tea liquid fertilizer. AeroBin composts kitchen and garden waste quickly. Easy to assemble with no special tools needed. The AeroBin makes composting rewarding and easy. Go to burpee.com or homedepot.com to purchase. Protect your plants from damage with the 3-in-1 Plant Guard and Special Blend Fertilizer. Visit ivorganics.com. Use promo code RADIO10 to save 10% off your order. Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
Rootmaker starts your plants off right and keeps them going through harvest. From their seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots to their large variety of grow bags, 1 to 60 gallons. Their products will provide you the harvest you've never seen before. Visit rootmaker.com. Use coupon code ROOT24 to save 15% off your order at rootmaker.com. That coupon code is ROOT24 to save 15% off your order at rootmaker.com. If you could double the life of your raised bed boxes by sealing the wood with a clear non-toxic wood preservative, would you? Well, now you can with a clear, penetrating product called Internal Wood Stabilizer. It's 100% non-toxic and easy to apply. Seal your untreated wood surfaces, even chicken coops, by spraying on Internal Wood Stabilizer. It's invisible, seals the wood from the inside out, and never wears off. Recommended by organic gardening experts, Internal Wood Stabilizer. Check it out at timberprocoatingsusa.com.
Wind River chimes will always be the inspiring harmony. With a large selection and customization options, you will find the sound that soothes you. Visit windriverchimes.com to shop and find out more.
Welcome back to the Garden with Joe and Holly radio show. Thank you for being with us. It's time to learn a little bit about who we are as the hosts. We're getting close to wrapping up season 8 here. One more show following this one next week, and the season will have been completed for 8 years now. So we figured this would be a good opportunity to sit down with you and share with you and answer some of the questions that you may have for us. So I'll start with this one. Holly, how did you get into gardening?
So I grew up in the city.
You can say what city, it's okay.
And we had, no. And we had, you might know, you might not know. It's a mystery. Uh-huh. We've mentioned it before. And we had this small backyard, a very small backyard, and we had a small backyard garden.
How small was it?
It was the size of a postage stamp.
Okay.
No, we had this very small backyard, and my parents always grew flowers, but then when I got, I don't know, probably into like middle school, I think, maybe high school-ish, somewhere in that range, we started growing vegetables, and we had this 4x8 size vegetable garden. And we grew, I remember tomatoes, peas, green beans, zucchini, peppers. There's probably a few other things.
So 4x8, that's a sheet of plywood, or basically a queen-size bed.
Like a twin, I think like a twin, or maybe a queen size.
It's a queen size, yeah. That's about how big you're talking about.
Yeah. And it was very manageable. I remember we would make zucchini bread from the zucchini, and then the tomatoes. Oh yeah, we did. We grew cucumbers too. And I never grew starts, so I didn't know that buying starts or starting seeds was a thing.
And I didn't know that you could, I'd never heard of such a thing. We always started starts, yeah.
So we were like the traditional, so our mother station, what do we call this? Home station?
Yeah.
Okay. Is in Milwaukee. Flagship station is in the Milwaukee area, Wisconsin, which is southeastern Wisconsin. And it's typically like growing season here is like Memorial Day. It used to be till Labor Day, but now it's kind of stretched beyond that. So Memorial Day weekend,
for you time. Now, currently now we garden as soon as we can get in, which can be late April, late March.
Right, but for a lot of people,
that's a traditional time frame. Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at. So we would, put the seeds in the ground Memorial Day, and then by August we would have tomatoes and, other things sooner, etc. And it just worked out. So that's how I got into gardening. And then I met Joey, and him and I had a little tiny container garden for a while. Mm-hmm. But how did you get into gardening?
Grew up on a farm in Southern Illinois. Always had a garden as long as from day one, and we had a very mature grape vine system, canning grapes. We had a garden. I would say it was probably, we had 3 different areas of gardening, so considerable gardening. And we canned everything. We never bought ketchup. If you could can it, it got canned. We would find, on the farm we had blackberries, so we'd freeze them. We had animals, so we would have those butchered. So we always, back to my earlier point on segment 1, farmers can be poor but never know they're poor because of the resources in which they have available to them. Freezer full of meat, pantry full of canned goods, that type of thing. Always had a garden, and you grew the staples: pole beans, peas, watermelon, tomatoes, cucumbers, That was the staple. Nothing outlandishly odd or unique. It was just the traditional things that you would see in a garden, or what people may realize or would say, hey, give me 5 things that you would see in a garden. Boom, boom, that's what we grew. My story is not as big as yours, I guess.
I guess not.
No. Let's see here. You grew a goth garden on the porch this year. This was the first year you ever attempted this. First of all, what is that, and how did it turn out? And what are you going to do different, if anything, next year?
So a goth garden, it's like a little like theme garden, I guess. Any sort of theme. You could grow an all purple flower garden.
Right.
Goth garden was just flowers that were more dark.
It's just a title given. It's not a spiritual whatever you want to go down that road.
Goth doesn't mean anything.
No, I know.
Anyway. So it's just like I grew dark flowers. I grew black petunias and some like very, very dark colored sunflowers,
which you started indoors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which you got mad about.
Because,
but they grew beautifully.
Because somebody forgot to water them. But anyway, go ahead.
So anyway.
Yeah.
And then I grew some petunias, pansies, or like violas, and then I tried to grow some cosmos, but those never took off. So I need to do a little bit more research and figure out, especially like the cosmos. And I think I had some zinnias that never took off either. So I need to figure out maybe why those didn't take off.
You know who else grows petunias?
Who?
Andy Griffith.
Oh, great. Yeah. So I was very happy with that. Also, we had like a weird summer where it was either raining or not raining.
Right.
Or it was hot or raining. That was pretty much it. Then, unfortunately, in August, I got really sick with a really bad asthma flare. So I didn't really tend to watering. I didn't have a lot of extra energy for stuff. So I didn't water as much as I should have.
But at that time, the sunflowers had pretty much spent out anyway.
But I don't know if like the zinnias and the cosmos would have done better. Yeah. I'm not really sure. But yeah, overall, I was pretty happy with it, especially the sunflowers. I love sunflowers. And so having them on the porch there, and then I would sit outside or like take a little cute selfie with the sunflowers, etc. So that was majorly cool. I'll probably grow more sunflowers. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy. So I have a question for you. You did most of our vegetable gardening this year, which thank you, by the way. What would you say maybe some successes and failures?
The successes was the knowledge on how to do things better next year. We used weed barrier to keep the weeds down, and it did not work the way we had wanted it to work. It made the soil too hot and it stunted some of the plants. We did not start tomatoes. We planted them directly in the ground, which we did the previous year and worked well without any weed barrier. We dropped the seeds in the ground, had the irrigation from Dripworks on, worked fine. So we learned that the weed barrier is not a successful thing in the vegetable garden in the way we are growing. So we will rip that weed barrier out. It was a financial, we had to pay for it, but it taught us some things. And we'll just deal with the weeds next year in order to have lush tomato plants and peppers and eggplants and green beans. So that is what was the failure, but the success in the same way. You can have failures, but if you don't learn from them, you can't be successful.
That sounds like how you would answer like an interview question, like a job interview question. Okay, anyway. So that was the success and the failure?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so we're close to wrapping up our 8th season. Our 8th season, right? Yeah.
Yep, 8th season.
So what would you say, we can do this part first. What's your favorite thing about hosting the radio show?
Sharing the information with people around the world. We are on 18 AM and FM terrestrial radio stations in parts of 18 states this year. And not only that, but we have downloads from all 50 states and over 100 plus countries around the world. So though we may never ever speak, you and I, who are listening, you may just tune in because you enjoy the banter between Holly and myself, or the knowledge, because we've had radio stations, their managers whom we've talked to and we have communicated. Oh, so and so called the station and really liked the way we interact, they said they don't even grow a garden. They tune in simply to hear the show. So we appealed to many different people. And with our program, it's not just having music on in the background as a background noise. Typically, the majority of people who are tuning in live on the radio or watching on YouTube replay or podcast replay are tuning in for a specific reason to gain knowledge about a certain topic in which we are covering. So, there.
All right. So
what about you?
My favorite
was that too
thing,
political?
No, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
My favorite thing is just I like the interviews with our guests. I feel like I always learn something.
Well, yeah, that's we bring on people that know more than we do in order for all of us to learn together.
And it just keeps it like I think a little fresh, interactive, whatever.
And you can ask each guest the same question, and they have a totally different answer to the same question. Yeah,
I agree. So, what's your least favorite thing
about what the show?
Yeah, hosting the show.
I guess the least favorite thing is we have complete control over the show. For people who are not familiar with how this operates, the only thing we don't do is push the button at the station and make it go on the air. We have complete control. So we spend about 1,000 hours a year and about 15,000 emails and email nearly 2,000 companies in order to get the 20 to 32 companies each year that says, yes, we like what you're doing. We'll support you financially because we have to pay for the airtime on all the stations in order for you to hear our show. So that aspect of it is not the most enjoyable, spending 8-9 hours a day pushing emails and getting about 1,100 to 1,200 no's a year. That part is not the most enjoyable. If I was a mind reader, I would just email the 32 companies who are going to say yes, and then take the next 6 months off.
So my least favorite thing, I think at times, is doing the behind the scenes work of like coming up with the questions for the guests. Not that I hate it. It's just that I work a very like...
Some people may not know that we provide the questions for the guests.
Oh, yeah. Or just like sometimes...
And that's just a respectful thing as a host. That here's what we're going to talk about, generality, and then we'll dive in off something that they say.
Right. And I know like... I like coming up with the questions, but the thing is that I work a full-time job separately. This is not my full-time job. And I enjoy my work, but it's very like brain heavy at times. It can be like
a lot of data,
mentally draining, whatever, a lot of like kind of science, whatever. So I'm like, okay, now I do have to do this, and then I do that, and then I have to do the questions. I try to give myself a break in between, but sometimes we're like coming up with radio show topics with Joey or guests or whatever. Like sometimes that part can be a little bit draining. I still love it. I still enjoy it, but it's not my favorite part.
There's a lot of work to go in to make a 55 to 59 minute show each week. And it takes a lot of time. What you hear on your radio right now, through your podcast, on YouTube, is about 5% of what actually takes place in order for you to hear the show. There's negotiations with stations. There's getting a hold of news stations. There's the whole deal. So more behind the scenes than you realize, but there's a lot. And we're who we are. We're not,
But it's never dull. It's never dull.
We are
it's never dull.
No. And we, based on conversations I've had with individuals in this industry, we are the only people doing it the way we're doing it. We don't have a team somewhere that spends 40 hours a week, 10 people mass calling and emailing me. It's just you and I. That's it.
I will say
there's nobody else in this industry doing what we're doing to the magnitude we're doing.
I will say that at the end of October, when we have after we're done with our last show, I'm like, oh, it's nice to get, a little bit of time back. But then
start
February,
ramping up.
Yeah, come February, I'm like kind of itching to get back on the air in a way. I mean, just because it does kind of feel like you start to feel spring-like again, and it's right around the corner and whatever. And I like winter, but it definitely is like refreshing, and it's something. It's consistently like something we do, but at the same time, like I said, there's never a dull moment, and it's always kind of something different. So
people ask us, why don't you go year round? We go 35 weeks, March through October, because one, we need a break, and two, I've talked to people who have radio shows that go year round, and nobody cares Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Day about gardening.
And that's the thing is I like to enjoy things in my life. Not that I don't enjoy this, but we do need the break. And there's those holidays and our birthdays and things like that during that time.
And financially, it would just be a headache to try to fulfill that.
I would like to have
requirement as well.
I would like to be able to focus on those and not focus on trying to do this. So,
that's a little bit about who we are. You got a lot of information behind the scenes how this program works that you may not have. So there you go. Some people won't share that with you. We got nothing to hide. Well, when we return, it's time for your garden questions and our garden answers. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
A non-selective herbicide that is also USDA BioPreferred certified? You bet. Say goodbye to Roundup and hello to No More Weeds by Naturally Green Products. No More Weeds kills weeds with no harsh chemicals and no glyphosate. Safe around pets, No More Weeds has a proprietary sticking agent to use around gardens, pools, decks, patios, anywhere there are weeds. Available online at natgreenproducts.com, Amazon, and Walmart.com. Order yours today. The same great company that brings you no more bugs. Jung Seed Company is a family-owned and operated seed company since 1907 with the largest selection of seeds and plants online. Use coupon code 10TG24 to save 10% off your order at jungseed.com. That coupon code is 10TG24 at jungseed.com for 10% off. Garden like a pro in 3 easy steps and receive customized fertilizer recommendations for your garden or lawn. Soil Savvy helps you determine what nutrients your plants need to thrive. Never again over-apply nutrients they don't need. A patented process that makes you a smart gardener. To get your soil test kit, go to mysoilsavvy.com.
Soil Diva Liquid Microbe Stimulant Spray improves the health of your plants you work hard to grow. Stimulates the natural enzymes and increases beneficial soil bacteria. Go to soildiva.net. Soildiva.net. Water supply tanks provide BPA-free, long-term, safe storage for drinking water from 35 to 1,500-gallon tanks. Water supply tanks has you covered. From preparing for unexpected needs, off-grid property, easy gardening access, and more. For questions and to order, visit watersupplytanks.com and use coupon code GARDENING10 to save 10% off your order. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Jamming out to another show here. Time for your garden questions and our garden answers. Send it on over to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. You can also give us a call toll free coast to coast at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. And both of those locations of communication is still going to be open and accessible during our off season over the winter. So let's see what we can get through the top of the hour, Holly.
All right, so first question is, can I grow yacon from tubers bought from the market?
Yacons are a root vegetable that looks similar to a sweet potato but has an apple, watery, carrot taste and takes quite some time to grow. We are able to grow it here in what was Zone 5, now Zone 6. No, you cannot grow it from the tuber. We are only able to grow it from the rhizome year after year. We've got like 10th generation rhizomes or plants from a nursery in which sent us plants in 2014. I believe there is a way in order to grow it from seed, but that is more of a tropical thing, I believe. I'm not sure. I've not studied on that because that's not applicable to our growing situation. But we can grow it in our area, and I've seen it grown as cold as Zone 4. But it's a very unique crop, and we do have, if you want to learn more about that, we do have videos on our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com. Put in yacon, and the search engine, you'll come up with the videos. I think there's a tab, too. YACONS is what how you spell that. All right, Holly, when is the right time to pick my broccoli? I know you're not a fan of broccoli.
No, I like broccoli.
Oh, you like broccoli?
No, it's cauliflower.
Cauliflower you don't like. Okay.
And it's not that I don't like cauliflower. Cauliflower doesn't like me.
Your body has different.
Yeah. All right. So broccoli, when the main head is firm and tightly packed, deep green, that means it has stopped growing. See, it's kind of a visual thing. You can see that it's almost like what you would see at the store, where it's like that.
And
nice
if you miss it by a day, it starts to flower, which is edible.
Oh yeah.
You can eat it when it's flowering. And the additional, if you just remove the head of the broccoli, they will produce side shoots that can produce smaller heads of broccoli based on the size of the plant. If you're not wanting to get additional broccoli, or the broccoli has exhausted itself, you can cut the stem off at the base ground level, remove the limbs and the leaves, and then take a peeler and peel the skin of the stalk and cut it very thinly, and you can make broccoli stalk slaw. You can also cook it down as well and consume the stalk of the plant as well. So it's not just one aspect of the plant consumption. There's multiple things of the plant in which you can consume.
All right. So it's getting cold in Illinois. When should I pick my loofah or loofahs, squashes? They're all green. I don't want to lose them.
Just get them before the freeze. If it's going to freeze, go ahead and pick them. You can still peel them when they're green. However, if you miss it, they're not going to produce any more seeds, or the maturity of the seeds may be lacking, but you'll be able to get the loofah itself. But if it freezes, there's a good chance that the loofah will then become muck and mush, and you've lost the work that you've put into it. So again, you can harvest it early. The seeds may not be mature, but you'll be able to get it peeled. You can bring it in and let it dry, and then you can peel it that way. If you're not familiar what a loofah is, it's a plant that grows on a vine that looks like a very large zucchini, I guess. And when peeled, you have what is the loofah sponge, and you can do multiple different applications with the sponge. You can infuse it with soap and all kinds of other things.
Yeah, it's for washing.
And then
some people also just use it as like decorative.
And then there is side note, in the ocean there is like an ocean sponge too that you can
I forget what it's called.
But that we're not ocean people.
No.
But
we're not. But that's okay.
But yeah, if you've never grown it, we've been able to do it successfully a couple of times. And get loofahs, yes.
Yeah, it's a type of gourd.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
I believe, and don't quote me, can you eat loofah? I believe you can.
I think it has to get past a certain point, though. So we can, so loofah is something that is cool to grow. I think that people should grow it. It's even just, the ones that we grew, we kept it decorative. You
can also, you can eat loofah, when it's harvested young and it's tender. All right, we got time for, let's see here. I see a lot of canning recipes and ideals on social media and feel they might not be safe. How do I find a safe resource?
Sure. So you can go to like the National Center for Home Food Preservation, the Ball Canning website. You can also, if you have a local master canner in your area, they might have some recipes for you. And then also anything by Better Homes and Gardens. Those are safe recipes. There's another, there's a master canner in Santa Barbara, California, and it's SB, like Santa Barbara canning.com, sbcanning.com. I think I covered all of them at that point. Yeah.
All right. Well, we have come to the portion of the program where we discuss what we learned today. What did you learn today?
It's a twofer. I learned that Annie Griffith grows petunias, and also that cannellini beans, navy beans, and Great Northern beans are all different.
All right. I learned that fertilizer, though it is chemical and organic, I kind of knew it, but the intensity and the in-depth of how how it interacts with the soil and the environment on a more in-depth level than what I had already had knowledge of. So, what we learned today is brought to you by Honey Bee Healthy.
Honeybeehealthy.com is serious about the business of bees and helping beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Whether you're a professional beekeeper or a bee hobbyist, we've got the products to help you maintain a healthy hive. Honeybee Healthy products are made in the USA. Visit honeybeehealthy.com. Tune in next week.
Tune in next week for our final episode of Season 8. We'll be discussing unique plants in which you can grow in your garden next year, as well as starting leeks and onions. It is a project in which we do in January, and many of you do much earlier than when our show starts to air in March across the country. So we felt it was the appropriate time to discuss how we do it and how we've done it successful for 15, 20 years, and we've kept modifying how we do it until we've gotten to the mechanisms and the means in which we're doing it now. And we'll share that with you, as well as our guest, Bree Author, will be with us, and we will have thank yous to dish out. So until next week, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.